I feel like I should hate this movie more than I do. I hate this movie. I do. I really do. But I can't. I can't put the vitriol that logically I know I should. And I think I know why.
Why is that?
Because it's hard to hate a Michael Bay movie. Excuse me.
Out of context.
Yeah.
It's hard to hate a Michael Bay movie.
It, it's hard to hate a Michael Bay movie when he's trying to be sincere. It's easy to hate Michael Bay when he's, just farting out movies like Transformers where he doesn't care. He's just finding any and all excuse to put military into his movies, and it just so happens that they had to work around the brand of the Transformers movies to, get the movie made.
It's harder to hate a Michael Bay movie when he tries. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah, it's harder because...
It's harder in being the key word.
Yeah, it's harder. And I was reminded of that continuously when I was watching this movie because this is Michael Bay's dream movie, even more than Pain and Gain.
Really?
Yeah, he has a huge military heart-on.
I can see that as proof from his every movie ever.
But, every movie ever, but...
I didn't know that this particular kind of military movie was his...
Yeah, like, if any chance for him to showcase people in the military with steely-eyed resolve and grit, I mean, he is just, jerking off right behind the camera while he's doing it. Mournful trumpets, soaring violins, the whole 9 yards. He is there, and he is just in the middle of everything. Just like, yeah, get this shot. No, get this shot. It's everything about the movie, from the characterization down to the fight scenes, is Michael Bay personified. The editing especially, because this is probably one of the most visually incomprehensible movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It is, but again, Michael Bay. Michael Bay feels like he hired the... I don't want to go there, but it feels like he hired a palsy victim to edit it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, I understand.
It's just completely erratic and the tone is just completely everywhere, all over the map. I mean, it's not like a jokey movie, but for every once in a while, there's like these weird little asides that I think were supposed to be humorous, but they just come off as otherworldly and almost alien. And then I remember, wait, Michael Bay, he probably thinks this is funny, and therefore that fits perfectly within the tapestry of his work. But the most of all, the reason why I find it so hard to really, furiously hate is the fact that he was sincere about the movie and he meant it to be a kind of like tribute to the people at Benghazi. Mm-hmm. Because, when you're going into a Michael Bay movie, you're thinking like, okay, if this is going to be based on true events, based is going to be the most operative word of that sentence. And how true to life he was is beyond the point, because it's fictionalized. It's fictional to begin with, just based off true events. But the fact that he felt that he needed to personally name the people who died at Benghazi feels like, it's hard to say you hate something that is meant to be a tribute.
Yeah,
it is. But I'm still gonna have to say it. I hated this movie.
Okay.
But I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Or as much as I probably logically should.
Okay. I did not hate the movie.
Not hate the movie.
I did not... I enjoyed it a little bit.
Just the tiniest bit.
Yeah.
But like, all right, indulge me a little bit. What was it about it that you did like? The few moments you did. I'm guessing few.
They managed to capture a few moments of sincerity. There was a good portion of... There were times where it was legitimately entertaining. For me. It was legitimately entertaining at moments. Moments in a 2.5 hour movie. There were moments where it was entertaining.
I mean, I'll grant you that during some of the battles, when you could understand what was happening, they were involving.
Yes.
And I guess in a movie like this, that's all you can really ask for.
Yes.
But but when it goes back to Michael Bay mode, like I'm just
just crap flying around and people shouting and shots firing and the composition's all very, very just kind of singular.
It's
a lot of shaky cam.
Unreasonable amount.
Yeah. At least it didn't have all the... You know what? I think I know what it is.
What?
This film didn't have nearly as much CG as his other films do.
Yeah. The worst thing about the Transformers movies, although I would argue that it is somehow the best and the worst part of the Transformers movie is the CG, because the CG forces Michael Bay to not do the shaky cam stuff. And that's annoying and irritating. It's visually ugly, but it forces him to be a better choreographer, but a better framing of the picture, cinematographer better, to use the actual term. It forces him to be a better cinematographer, but when he doesn't have to rely on CG, when he doesn't have to, he reverts back to type. And that is nauseating. I didn't think the movie was painful to watch, but it was definitely, as I said, visually incomprehensible at times. I mean, I've seen Werner Herzog movies that were more comprehensible than this movie.
Yes.
I mean, both in terms of visual comprehension and also in terms of story sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's 1.5 million characters all revolving in and out of the plot at seemingly on a whim, and they are hardly ever characterized. And I think this is going to the root of my problem with most military fiction. Because everyone thinks that people in the military have to act in a certain way because of uniformity and blah, 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 that means they can't exactly have a personality. They can't be an individual, so they always have to revert to this stock character trope of some hoo-ha military jarhead, or at best some duty-bound individual who's always thinking of family and yet somehow always finds himself on the other end of the world.
Describe fiction, exactly. I mean, it is based, I don't think we said it yet, but this is based on a true story. Based on a true story.
When the movie opens and says this is a true story, I think that what needed to happen was
it's Michael Bay true.
Yeah. Some hands just kind of crop in from out of nowhere and just make the finger quotation marks around true. Yeah. But when I'm talking about fiction, I'm talking about any and all kinds of stories revolving around mostly military characters, like Call of Duty games or Medal of Honor games. Yeah. Okay. Especially
dialogue.
Not just dialogue, but character interaction and.
I see. Yeah, and inspiration and drive and.
Yeah, it's.
I understand that.
And I have to think that in a story like this, they wanted to focus on the people, and that's good. That's what a story should do, especially in one that's cast against this huge world stage event, as it were. But for the life of me, I couldn't tell who was who. It doesn't help that most of the actors, save for Krasinski, because the guy from The Office, I can't remember his name right now, but outside of the guy from The Office, I could not tell who was who. Doesn't help that these actors I didn't recognize them from anywhere, and they're all hidden under either blasted debris, makeup, and huge thick lumberjack beards.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a point where when the mortars were hitting, that I actually couldn't remember which guy was which of the brothers who got hit because of the incomprehensible shots.
Not only an incomprehensible shot composition, and like I said, everyone looks the same.
Yeah.
And when you realize that it's because they're in the military, they're CIA operatives or contractors as they describe themselves, it makes sense that they wouldn't be
they look the same, they act pretty much the same. Yeah. They operate under a very narrow. You can't really. There's not a lot of room in the military for developing different kinds of character. It's just you've got one job. You've got to.
Yeah, like it's very apropos. It's very apropos that one of the characters was reading a Joseph Campbell book, even though it wasn't Hero of a Thousand Faces, because this literally could be a Hero of a Thousand Faces.
Yeah.
And when I saw that character was reading Joseph Campbell, I just like did one of these.
I mean, maybe there's more realism to that. I mean, it's not the same as your other war scenarios, such as Saving Private Ryan or Platoon, where you tend to get different types of people, different character.
Well, that's because in those stories, those characters were drafted. They were not military men. They were drafted.
And thank you. That's the reason.
That's like they wouldn't be in the military if they had a choice, but they didn't. So they are.
Well, and in that lies your difference.
And therein lies the difference, especially, and it was very singular. For the setup of the setup of the story is that a bunch of Libyan extremists, stormed the U.S. ambassador's compound and basically smoke him out. Now you're thinking that okay, the U.S. ambassador is the central figure of this plot because that's what sparks the attack, but no. We get maybe about 10 minutes of screen time with him, and he's just... Yeah. And he kind of dies off screen.
He dies off screen, which was a really bad... It was bad writing.
I would figure, especially since the real person who died in those attacks was given an in memoriam at the end of the movie.
All of these people risk their lives trying to save him.
And
then they show they take away the significance of him by having him die off camera. That was really bad.
Yeah, there were several characters that I couldn't remember if they died or not because they just, like I said, the story just is this revolving door of multiple characters whose names you can't keep track of.
Yeah. And it's not that they couldn't have showed it. They started the scene that he was in where he was being attacked. Mm-hmm. Where they were smoking him out. You could see and it was a good shot, I guess, the smoke coming out.
Although I have to wonder that the extremists poured a bunch of gasoline over the floor and then they lit it, and it was like this thick black pillowy smoke. I felt it was like Hexus was coming in from the room.
Yes.
It's like, what did they do? Burn tires? Gasoline doesn't burn that way.
That was. It looked neat, but not very realistic.
No, that was my thought. It's like, wow, this looks good, but gasoline doesn't burn like that.
Remain objective.
Not without burning like tires or like asbestos, but no.
Yeah.
But if they showed that, and it felt like the plot was so chaotic in that regard, they were showing what was happening at his compound versus what happens at the CIA secret base in. Secret, even though the characters all keep mentioning how like they stick out like a sore thumb, a bunch of Americans going in and out of this locked compound surrounded by floodlights. How is this supposed to be secret? And I said, stop poking plot holes in this movie.
Yeah,
that's our job.
They mentioned they had you got blue-eyed Westerners, coming in and out of this place. It's bound to be. Mm-hmm. It's bound to be compromised at some point. I was like, well, yeah, I guess that's not good. Maybe shouldn't do that.
Like, yeah. You should probably not do that. You should probably not do that, but you're doing that. So, fuck it. The movie's already started. This train ain't stopping for nothing. So.
Oh yeah, another reason I may have liked the movie more than I should have is that they pulled out the magic linking chains first before they went to the walking across a swimming pool, as magic act terms go. They sold it as a really boring movie. Starting out, and then they really cut to all action for the rest of it.
I was not following that metaphor at all, but I think I know where you're getting at. Like, the movie
They took out the cheap tricks first.
Yeah, the movie started off really slow. I think, like, the first half hour of the movie is just all the characters getting introduced to Libya. It's like, this is this character, this is this character, this is the compound. Spend 10, 15 minutes...
I thought that was going to go on for 3/4 of the movie.
I wouldn't blame them.
I
would not blame you, rather.
It was a really bad, slow beginning that would... They start off, as you said, they start off at a compound, and they're getting a tour of the compound that takes about at least 7 minutes.
7 to 10 minutes.
7 to 10 minutes, and that's really boring, and you think that's just going to be it. But then they go to another compound, and they're checking out these different compounds, and then they do the same thing in that one, and I'm just like, fucking God. And they go on these missions. That's another thing. They go on all these missions at the beginning of the movie
that have nothing to do with
where no one gets hurt, like on either side. Nothing happens.
Oh no! One of the extremists did crash their car into a bulldozer. Remember that when they were being pursued. One of the extremists.
Oh, you mean when they were chasing him?
Yeah, when they were chasing him, they crashed their car, even though we don't know what happened to them.
Oh, the final mission before the Alamo starts, and yes, they do make reference to the Alamo.
21st century Alamo.
I'm sure Michael Bay loves the Alamo.
I'm sure if it wasn't for the fact that Billy Bob Thornton tried to make that movie 8 years before, he would have made an Alamo movie by now.
Oh yeah, but so yeah, basically they go on these scenario missions. Felt kind of Call of Duty-esque, except nothing happens.
Kind of like Call of Duty, actually.
Call of Duty was just kind of like just a bunch of guys getting into position and then calling it a day.
Yeah, nothing is accomplished. We have no idea why they're doing this.
They're just hired help at this point. Just dogs. They're just muscle.
I keep wrapping my head around what was the point of the beginning to establish. I'm thinking like they were trying to establish that that's what they were originally there for. They were not just there in Libya to fight the extremists off at the compound.
They were security to begin with.
There was so they were supposed to be security. Okay, that I get, but when you let go of that plot line of them, like of the one woman with lines in this movie who is treated like crap, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think at one point one of the soldiers just points at her and just says, "You're here for your eyes and your mind, not your mouth."
Yeah. I was, of course I was like, nah, I don't. This Michael Bay film, I'll let it go.
It's like, it's good that she's there.
It could be a lot worse than that. I'll let it go.
Yeah. And it was either between her and the wife of a guy from The Office. I'm going to call him Krasinski, but I'm going to call him Krasinski, but I could be completely wrong. Here's a correction if need be. Remember the timestamp on that one? Okay. 17 minutes in. Make sure to edit in a correction if need be. But the only other female character with lines is the actress playing his wife, and it's really the schmaltziest and really cringiest part of the movie. She's talking to him over a cell phone while driving their kids into McDonald's, and and these kids are brats. They're just, we want 25 Happy Meals,
chicken nuggets. We want all your chicken nuggets.
And then, like, under such duress, she finally lets out that she's pregnant again, and Krasinski, again, correction.
One of the girls gives it away. She wasn't going to tell him, at least yet.
Yeah.
She's like, "Hey, I have a baby." It's like, what? What was that?
It's like,
and then she just breaks down and cries, and she's the poor person at the window, who was the real hero of this film.
Oh yeah,
by the way.
Infinite patience on that guy's part.
Yeah,
just infinite patience.
It's like, do you want? So you're repeating the order. Do you want this? And it's like, I don't. Just give us whatever amount of Happy Meals you want.
Like, you want chicken nuggets?
Chicken nuggets, whatever. I don't care how they're made.
I don't care if they're made out of Chinese people and chewed up dogs.
Yeah.
That point was probably the lowest point of the movie for me personally.
Really?
I think so, because that was very hard to sit through. Everything else up to that point and beyond that was either boring, uninvolving,
or weird. I wish you would have been there.
Oh, yeah. I had to duck out of the movie because when you order a jumbo Coke at the movie theater, you have about a good 30 minutes before your bladder just says, either you take me to the urinal or you're pissing your pants right there in the seat. So I left, and apparently while I left, Gabe,
he missed. Every Michael Bay film kind of has that strange moment in it, I guess you could say.
Well, this movie had several, but the one I missed here.
Well, this was very interesting. Michael Bay does like references, I guess. So there was a scene where they're just hanging out at the base, more really boring shit, where they're just jerking each other off.
Not literally, hopefully.
Well, I don't know what they do off the camera, but you know, they're figuratively jerking each other off, just fooling around and being boys. And they eventually get to a scene where they put on Tropic Thunder, and they all watch Tropic Thunder and start going like, gets to the point where they get to, I'm the dude who's portraying the dude, I'm the kid who's playing the dude who's portraying the dude, or I get the line right, but they all start.
They're all doing.
They all start doing their own impression of it. It's Robert Downey Jr. impressions, and it was just like, they had to have a reference somewhere, didn't they? It wouldn't be complete.
That wasn't the weirdest part for the movie for me. The weirdest part, because it happened so fast, was Krasinski and company are on their way to try to defend the compound after the initial attack, and then out of nowhere he just blinks and like, I lost my contact lens.
Oh yeah, there was that scene.
Where the epic Krasinski loses his contact lens scene, and then it's never brought up again, and it's never an issue at all. Why?
I did notice in another frame after that where he was about to put it back in, though. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw like him just doing like this.
He did have it on his... Yeah,
yeah, like so, like
so it wasn't like he lost it and then he was okay.
He was like, take a breath, people, take a breath. He found his contact lens.
He did. They did.
That was completely necessary.
It was kind of funny. It was like, I can't go in there without my contact lens. And I thought for a second maybe that was an excuse. I thought maybe that was a guy ducking out.
Yeah, I that's why I thought they were going with it too. It's like, nope, it's problem solved within 20 seconds of it being brought up.
But
thanks for that one, movie.
So it was like, okay, so he wasn't ducking out. He did get it back in, but then why was that ever put in there? And how did he lose it?
There's no lead up to it. There's no payoff to it. It's just an extra 20 seconds that literally could have been excised from the movie, and nothing would have changed.
I mean, I've worn contact lenses before for costuming purposes, not because I have eye problems. So I know there's a difference between glass ones and plastic ones, blah blah blah. But I've never had one fall out or anything.
Yeah, I've worn them too, but I think that's the least of the movie's problems. And that scene in particular is problem. It shouldn't have been there in the first place. And that was just one of the many scenes. Like one of the soldiers was just dancing around to guess song.
Yeah.
Guess the song. 2012. What was the most popular song of 2012 at the time? We're sexy and we know it.
He's got flashlights and he's pretending they're his nipples. And, yeah.
I thought that was going to be the worst part of the film because I hate that song so much. But on recollection and after having sat through all of it, no, the McDonald's drive-thru scene was way worse because of the cringe involved. But
the worst part for me was just all of the scenes that didn't need to be there, sitting through awkward, well, not so much awkward, but boring dialogue.
Boring. When you're trying
shooting the shit.
The problem with that is it's not so much that they're just shooting the shit, is that the people who are shooting the shit are some of the most boring people imaginable. Yeah. Because they're written as such. Because going back to that problem again of saying that only certain types of people would be in that line of work. And therefore everyone kind of runs into each other as far as characterization is concerned. I mean, you could say that I'm blanking on his name, but the guy who inspired the movie American Sniper, he could have very easily been in this movie, even though, logically he was a world away.
Yeah.
But, he's that kind of person. He's just, that kind of person.
He'd fit in there. Yeah.
He'd fit in right there. And when you can say for a fact that a character from a completely different movie could be in this movie and no one can tell the difference, chances are that it's not exactly a very strongly characterized movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, outside of Job and such, I mean, you couldn't say the same thing for putting James Bond in a Jason Bourne movie. Even though technically they're in the exact same profession, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So that's my major gripe with these kinds of movies and these kinds of stories. I have yet to see a movie where they try to characterize people who were in the military as being other than, this is my duty, I've forgotten country, and, I got a wife and family that I love, even though I took a job that would put me at the world's end.
Yeah.
You never get a sense that, that Krasinski is legitimate sad that he left his family, because he keeps saying like, I keep finding myself all the way out here. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't be a CIA contractor now, should you? If you really hate doing this.
Yeah.
It's like, you do realize that there are other jobs out there, right?
Yeah, there are.
I mean, sure, you probably didn't go into the military expecting to be an accountant, but if you hate it so much, just quit.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Just quit.
It's not that we don't appreciate it.
It's that if you hate it and don't want to do it, just quit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that difficult. I mean, and it even says right after the movie during the credits that the people the characters, the fictionalized people, the real people after these events retired from the CIA. It's like, they could have always done that. So I guess it really. Yeah. So I guess they weren't being held by contracts or anything like that. They were just like, it's a paycheck's a paycheck, even though I hate doing it. You're not working at the steel mill here. You're going into unfriendly territory and possibly killing people. So just quit.
Yeah.
That was the frustrating part of the movie.
I mean,
as far as characterization,
given what amount of information we have as far as that's all concerned.
Yeah. I mean, going by what the movie holds as true, yeah. But going through all of this, going through pretty much what you expect out of the movie, once the attacks start, they just keep going and going for the remainder of the better part of an hour and a half. I would say a good solid hour and a half is just the 13 hours of that conflict, the 13 hours of the title. But starting from that point to the end, I think the movie was all right, save for the overly spastic battle scenes and complete jarring editing that they accompany with, and they kind of they feed into each other. The spastic camera movements feeds into the erratic editing, and the erratic editing feeds into it's like this Mobius strip of continuous headache-inducing, mind-numbing
I'm glad
experience.
You mentioned that. I don't know how I forgot, but I did get a headache during the movie, and I don't know if that's because I'm getting over being sick or if that was from the visuals or both, but I did definitely get a headache.
I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
I did find myself having to just kind of stop looking at the screen for just a little bit and to just rub my temples. You probably saw me doing this a lot and cranking my neck because I did get a headache.
Yeah. It's one of the more unpleasant movies I've sat through. Physically unpleasant movies.
Yeah. And I really thought he needed CG, overexposure of CG, in order to do that to us. But he has proven that he doesn't.
No.
He can do it with any kind of medium. He can give you headaches.
Like I said.
Thank you, Michael Bay.
Like I said, when he has CG, he's forced to keep the camera still.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. But even so, outside of the spastic camera movements and such, he does still get his moments in. The wide panning, the setting shot that seems like he's shot on an Apache helicopter.
I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if he shot that scene on Apache helicopter.
Even though that would be a gross waste of appropriated funds, but
he'd have a good time.
Yeah,
he's having fun.
There's also the thorny issue that the thorny issue of Michael Bay and how he always seems to get some kind of military what's the word, cooperation as far as the shoots are concerned. And you could tell that the military had a real hand in helping with this movie.
Definitely had that feel to it. Yeah.
So you have to wonder how much of this movie was made with keeping his military contacts happy for future Transformers movies.
Yes.
So,
but it didn't feel entirely obligatory.
Obligatory.
Sorry, I just say obligatory.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like
it didn't feel like he was purposefully bending over backwards to, I feel like he was all too happy to tell this story the way that the Pentagon probably wanted him to tell it, if it must be told in a public venue like this. But
he was into the film. It wasn't like, okay, I gotta make that war movie. So that...
he already made Pain and Gain, and that was a movie that kind of redeemed himself in a lot of ways, because when he's sincere about the movie he's making, he could be kind of fun, and he could be very, it's like he could be enjoyable. But when he's not making movies that he has any passion for, it's just misery.
Yeah.
Like Pain and Gain is fun. Bad Boys 1 is fun. Bad Boys 2 was...
I've never seen either.
Yeah. I mean, stop at Bad Boys 1. You don't need to see Bad Boys 2. Even though it has some of the most Michael Bay-esque moments in Michael Bay's career.
Oh, the panning shots. I know that's...
Not just those. Like, the stunt work especially is just vintage Bay. But, I mean, there's a reason why I can't... There's a reason why The Rock is one of my favorite action films of all time. And it's because of Michael Bay. It's not just because of Nick Cage, and it's certainly not just because of Sean Connery. It's because Michael Bay knows... I keep
forgetting he did that.
Yeah, I know. It's because Michael Bay certainly, when he is passionate about a project, he will just go to the gills and just saturate a shot and just make it just as grandiose and as rich as possible.
And that's what makes all the rest of the stuff so much worse, is knowing that he can create a good film.
Yeah, look, there is no moment in any of the Transformers movies where there's this... where, like, Nick Cage just tries to flag down the the F-14s with his green flares. There's no moment like that. There is no, like, ounce of passion. And here, in 13 Hours, I feel that there was some passion.
Yeah.
And this was not passionless. It was it was done in his typical Michael Bay way, and with all the baggage that comes with.
Yeah.
But I remember that this movie was a weird reminder of what he can do when he wants to do it. Which is all the more sadder when you realize that he's coming back for Transformers 5. Why does he keep coming back to these movies if he hates doing them? Yeah. I mean, he doesn't need the money. He just doesn't. He can make the movies he wants to make. He made this movie. He made Pain and Gain, albeit not with nearly the Transformers kind of budget. But he got them made. It's not like he's bereft of choice of what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So he keeps coming back. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some dream project he has yet to touch, but no studio wants to finance it unless he can get them another mega blockbuster like Transformers 5.
Is he amassing large funds for something amazing? Is that what you think? You think this is a lead up? There's reason for sitting through all these terrible movies?
I'm saying don't count out the possibility of The Rock 2. I'll be there.
Don't give people false hope, man.
I know. But, there's the little boy in me. There's the little boy in me who wants to believe that he's going to make another Rock. But there's, the reality check is no, he's not. But he might make another movie that's as awesome as The Rock. I know it's within him. I certainly know it's within him. He just needs to be able to make a hard R fun action movie.
Yeah.
And I think that the fate of that rests on the box office returns of Deadpool, because that's the next hard R action film that's coming out. So if Deadpool does well, then studios can say, like, okay, we can get an hard R action film out today and recoup the cost, because now we know that there's an audience for it.
Yeah, not to say Michael Bay has anything to do
not that
with
Michael,
Deadpool.
But studios are very mindful of each other these days, and Fox is lowballing. Fox right now is lowballing Deadpool. I think they're being made for like $50 or $60 million, which is a pittance for a superhero movie these days. But Ryan Reynolds wanted this movie so badly that he was like, me and everyone I know who wants to make this movie will take drastic pay cuts just to make this movie happen.
Good for them.
Yeah, not only that, Fox is releasing this movie in February. That is how much they don't believe in this movie. They're just going to put it out in the dead season. They might as well put it out in January. But no, they're going to put it out in February because they want to give it as much room to grow as possible. They're like, no competition whatsoever in February. None. That's how little they believe in this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it finally turns out when everything is said and done.
I think it's going to be a good film. I really do.
we can all be left disappointed by it, but at the very least, we can all look at it and say like,
oh man, after Origins, go ahead.
No, but once it's released, at the very least, we can all say at least it was made.
Yeah.
Whether for good or for ill, at least it was made.
Yeah, I mean, as you can't do too much. I mean, he's already taken the hit with Origins and Green Lantern, so and he says it as much in one of the previews. So
yeah,
I really think that they're not gonna take any chances making this bad.
Nah, but who knows? Like, face it, America, you're gonna have to see this movie. You fucked up with Scott Pilgrim. Let's have this coming. Say what you will about Scott Pilgrim. At least it was different.
It was entertaining.
I mean, people had a lot of problems with that movie. All legitimate problems.
I find the actor very annoying.
But that was kind of the point for the role, so.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but I think we're getting off base here.
Oh, also, you can see the bone.
Oh yeah, I think the last talking point to be had in this movie is like the sudden rush of violence.
Yeah.
At the end, and spoiler alert, the consulate is attacked, and one of the soldiers took mortar fire, and just like his left arm is just dangling by tendons, and you find out at the end that the person who suffered that injury had several extensive surgeries and now regained the use of his hands, which is very good, very good. But it feels all kind of otherworldly because he's just kind of like he's
very
kind of
nonchalant about it.
He's either nonchalant about it or just like, can you just rip this off? This is getting kind of annoying because he's just dangling.
He's like, hey, look at this.
It's like he's just dangling it, just like, hey, isn't this weird?
Yeah, he was wielding it, almost wielding it like the. Like that wackabilly arm, and I'm gonna use the Bloodlines reference. If you play Bloodlines, you've had that arm where you whack people with it. But
Gabe,
I know some nobody's a lot of people.
Gabe, three people got that. Three people got that reference.
At best. There's another game. You go ahead and.
But it was like the end of the film was kind of like it was surprisingly bloody because. Like there were these little bits and parts where there's a lot of violence. Like there was one Libyan extremist who got hit by like a 50 cal machine gun, and his torso exploded. And so like his upper half of his torso just kind of flops over for like half a second.
Well, what was jarring about that was when the mortars started hitting.
Yeah.
When the shells started hitting, they showed everybody being hit by it, and up close too, but they didn't show any of the damage yet.
Yeah.
So you didn't think that, you thought, okay, they're just kind of glazing over that. They didn't want to take that approach. And then a couple scenes later, you see the damage all at once. Suddenly those guys who got hit, you're seeing, So it's like, oh shit! Okay, you are going to show it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Saving Private Ryan level of gore and horror, but it touched its hem. It touched its hem, and it's so jarring because up till that point, outside of like little hints here and there, it was fairly bloodless.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's that traditional like kind of like
sure
squid.
people fly and die, but you can.
Yeah,
they don't show the actual damage.
It's no more bloody than your PG-13 movie. And then all of a sudden, dangling arm.
Yeah.
It's like, black guy who's just chewed up by all this fire. That was. Couldn't you have built up a little bit that way? I mean, I'm not saying you have to go Rambo 4 on everyone else.
Yeah.
Although, part of me kind of wishes that if Michael Bay could have based this movie totally on fiction, he didn't have to worry about this being related at all to any kind of real world person. Or that's the way he would have gone. He would have had someone just man a 50 cal machine gun and just explode all the Libyan extremists like cream cheese in a microwave. That's what he would have done. But no, he's got to be respectful towards the actual people who were involved in the attack. So let's reserve that. Like, this brilliant man lost his arm in a mortar fire, or I'm not sure. he nearly lost his arm in the attacks. I'm not sure if it's actually because of a mortar fire or if it's from some other attack, but he actually lost his arm. So like, okay, we have to show that somehow.
Yeah.
And I can understand the methodology behind that. But seeing this movie, like I said, reminded me that Michael Bay can be passionate once in a while, and when he's passionate, he could be tolerable.
Yeah.
At least way more tolerable than his reputation has preceded him.
It was a tolerable movie, yeah.
I was expecting to hate it. I do hate it, but not nearly as much, like I said, not nearly as much as I do.
I'll reserve my hate for more hate-worthy movies.
Which I'm sure we'll get to.
Of them.
Which I'm sure we'll get to by year's end.
Here's looking at you, 2014.
But I think we've exhausted ourselves. General recommendation, do you recommend people seeing this movie?
Oh, man. Now that you put it that way.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
I mean, if you want to... I mean, just in a support the troops kind of way.
Like, the best thing I can say about this movie is that as far as othering the Libyans are concerned, they actually managed to portray them as sympathetic people. It's not like every Libyan was out to get the Americans. Oh no, there was a bunch of Libyan loyalists. I wouldn't call them loyalists, but a bunch of Libyans who were not extremists who helped and saved the American soldiers and the American personnel in these bases.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wary of how they were going to approach that, especially in today's climate.
Yeah.
And they were about as respectful as you can. They were more respectful than I expected them to be. And I don't want this review to go out without me mentioning it, because they even mentioned that 100,000 Libyans had poured into the streets to mourn the losses.
Yes, and one of the final images was one of them holding up a sign saying, "We're sorry.
We're sorry. This is not us.
This is."
And that's,
it's important to remember.
It's important. That's the most important part of this whole artistic endeavor. It's that it's important to realize that if you're going to base this off real events, try to remember that there's another side to this. So
yes,
and I think that even though the movie I think would have been better had they paid more attention to the actual the Libyan people that were helping them, because I believe that they were more integral to the story and more interesting to the story than any of the operatives or the contractors were. But there was no way that you were going to sell a movie on the Libyans side of that conflict. But regardless, I don't recommend this movie either. I just don't.
Yeah.
But
if you can rent it, maybe.
I wouldn't even recommend you renting it. I would say that this is not necessary for anyone.
It's not necessary viewing.
It's not unnecessary. Even if you had...
Well, it's not necessary.
Excuse me. Even if you had a slight inkling to want to go see it, I would suggest that the only reason why you would want to go see it is if you were hyped to begin with. If you were hyped somehow by those trailers, then yeah, go see it. But
if this is your kind of film, see it. Yeah, I mean, it delivers if that's what you're looking for. But
otherwise, no.
Yeah.
It's
also if you like Call of Duty, you might really much enjoy it.
No, I don't think even people who like Call of Duty would like this, because it's not nearly as outlandish as Call of Duty. It's strangely grounded for.
Okay, well, I should admit I've never played Call of Duty. I'm speculating at that point.
Well, even though it's kind of in that same realm, Call of Duty is way more.
But it does have its moments where it's a Michael Bay film, so it does have its moments of military.
And every once in a while, it kind of pays homage to Call of Duty when the camera shifts to first person down the iron sights of an assault rifle. And I'm thinking, didn't you not learn anything from Doom? That was the lamest part of the movie. I mean, everyone loved it, but they're like, no. That was fucking lame.
And I think at this point we've gone over as long as we need to go on this movie.
They're so I will say that it has the distinction of being the most surprising movie so far this year.
That's a good point. It's a Michael Bay film and it's better. Oh yeah. It's better than any Transformer movie, I guess.
No, it's surprisingly good. Surprising in that we expected absolute shit, and it's not. So, put a gold star on that, why don't you? But we're just delaying.
You don't need to watch the first almost half of the movie, though.
No, you don't. But I think we're just going around in circles at this point. So, general recommendation is don't go see it unless you really, really, really are hyped.
Yeah.
But until next week, see ya.